General are moving forward even after DeJoy did, as we've been reporting, back off under pressure from the House as well as street protests. They say they're going full steam ahead. They want to ask courts to force him to keep his word and also roll back these other limits. So let's get right into it with someone in the center of the action. I'm joined by Rhode Island Attorney General Peter Neronha, one of the attorneys general part of this lawsuit. Let's begin with the biggest legal question, which may be dry, but as you know, is super important. Do you still have a problem, a thing you're suing over, if this Trump official is telling the truth and they've backed off?
Well, there are two things really, Ari. One is to make sure that they follow through with these promises and go forward and make sure that there aren't changes we're concerned about. But we also want them, as we alleged in the lawsuit, to reverse the changes they've already made. The administration, the Postmaster General, has already taken action which will impact the reliability of our postal service, which we need to conduct a mail ballot election in this COVID pandemic we're in. Not necessarily all mail ballots, but many more mail ballots than we've had in the past. We've got to have a great postal service. We want them to reverse the changes they made that have negatively impacted that service.
As an attorney, I'm sure you could agree with the evidentiary claim that Donald Trump admitting his guilty plans and saying stupid things helps your case, yes?
Well, look, there's the old adage, circumstantial evidence is as good as direct evidence. The president occasionally gives you a little bit of both, and he's done that here. So,
so let me press you on that. This is where I'm going with that. I think viewers are well familiar with Donald Trump doing that. I mean, he talked his way into getting impeached when many House Democrats, as everyone remembers, initially weren't jumping at that. And he certainly talked his way, and we quoted your lawsuit accurately noting that. The question to you here is, above and beyond that, do you have and do you need any other direct evidence that this is political meddling at the post office, not just a wider cutback for your case?
No, not necessarily. Look, the bottom line is that when you inject change into the Postal Service that has negative repercussions, you've got to go before the Postal Regulatory Commission to announce what those changes are and get approval. The administration bypassed that completely. And by doing that, they broke the law. There are constitutional claims that are asserted as well. But the law is really simple about that. You want to make a big change in the Postal Service that's going to impact reliability, you got to go get an opinion from the Postal Regulatory Commission. That's the law. They didn't do it.
Just to be clear, I'm only slowing you down because you're running through so much law so quickly. I'm just going to slow you down. You're saying even if you don't have direct smoking gun evidence of them trying to stop Democratic votes, even though the president's talked about that, but you don't have them doing that, you're saying you don't need it because they also violated the legal process requirements anyway.
Correct, right? If you're going to change the way the Postal Service does business in a negative way, and the Postmaster General has acknowledged that. He said, we've made transformative changes that are having unintended consequences. Well, those unintended consequences are obviously negative. When you do that, you've got to go to the Postal Regulatory Commission to get approval for that change. They didn't do it. And so as a result, they broke the law, and that's a big part of our lawsuit.
And there's one more thing we got to get into, and that's the calamari. You understand that, right?
Yeah, you can get
this This wouldn't be a thorough cross-examination without that. Let's take a look at this moment that's actually gone viral from the roll call.
The calamari comeback state of Rhode Island casts 1 vote for Bernie Sanders and 34 votes for the next president, Joe Biden.
What's the whole deal with the calamari?
Well, look, my former U.S. attorney colleagues from around the country really pinging me with that one, including some of your friends, Joyce Vance and others. We have great seafood here in Rhode Island, and calamari is our state appetizer. And so I guess the party chairman thought that was a way to bring a little attention to our great state. It is a great state. We love our seafood, and I'm proud of where I live.
We're appropriately zoomed in on the calamari from that shot because we take all of our reporting evidence seriously. Is there a link between calamari and comeback, or is it just an alliteration?
I suspect it's an alliteration. I think, the party chair McNamara, kept that pretty closely held. I don't think many people knew he was going to do that. So you may want to follow up with him.
Well, you're giving us, as we say in the video, you're giving us leads. for other angles and stories we can work on. Peter Neronha, with a very clear explanation of why you think you're going to beat Trump on this case, including why you have more than one door to go through. So it's really interesting. I'm glad you gave us the background, sir.
Thanks, Ari. Thanks for having me on.